Humans have issues. Yeah. Yeah, profound. It's one of those master statements. Yeah. Just stand on the street corner or at the airport, yes, and just spew off things like, yes, humans have issues. They'll think you're wise, actually, if you say it right. Humans, also meaning not me, humans have issues. Humans have issues. Other humans try to treat them, and it doesn't work very well. And it's working less and less well every single day. It's called psychology or psychiatry. It's also called pharmaceuticals, better life through chemistry. Not really. It's called giving pills to handle things because the old psychology isn't working. Old psychology is based on the mind. It's based on the mind. And it's based to a certain degree on a very narrow perspective of the past. It fails to take into account past lives. It fails to take into account, yes, the soul, which I don't expect that it will, but it looks at a very narrow set of circumstances, and it gets very, very mental. So it's not working very well. It's not, and this all comes back to the subject of dreams. When there are psychological issues, when it is all mind-focused and there's a lot of mind processing, can you imagine? The mind is actually very clever up to a degree. It will go in circles and circles and circles. And it will feel, because it is taking steps, because it is always working on things, that it's making progress. But the whole time the mind is laughing, saying, boy, I got them fooled. I just got them running in circles. The mind loves activity. Why? That makes it feel alive. It's like a computer that's always on, always churning away. And if it's cranking out thoughts and emotions, feels like it's doing its job. Psychology is based on the mind for the most part. And yes, emotions, but emotions come from the mind. The mind, as we've talked about in some of our classes, created emotions is a cheap substitute for feelings, awareness, consciousness. It's time, and when the mind gets involved in dreams, it gets very, very confused, and it chases dreams. And the dreams really never become a reality. What happens is you get a little morsel of the dream landing once in a great while. Just enough dream to keep you dreaming somewhere else. They don't manifest. They don't come in. When somebody is having deep psychological problems, they're confused, they don't know what to do, they're in a morass of emotions and thoughts and they can't sort it out anymore, they go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. And what happens? They get involved in mental masturbation, mutual masturbation with each other. And they just start processing. And it gives a sense of relief because, oh, finally something is being done to untangle. But it doesn't. Really doesn't. Now, there are times when somebody will have a certain amount of relief through therapy. But I'm going to say it's not the therapy, it's actually the person, the soul, the whatever you want to call it, finally saying, I'm tired of this game. I don't care what the psychologist is saying. I'm going to get myself back into balance. There is this whole game of the psychology that's being practiced right now, extremely mental. We can go beyond that, starting with yourself. It always starts with yourself, because when it starts here, you don't have to go out and stand on a soapbox and preach it. You just radiate it and illuminate it. The new psychology I would call, drum roll. Thank you. Compassionate psychology. Compassionate psychology. It's what we did in one of our recent DreamWalks. We went back to the a time in the listener's life, back to when you were 18, 24 years old. I picked that time frame on purpose. Went back to visit, not to process, not to figure out what was done wrong or who done you wrong. It's an inherent problem in mental psychology. But back to visit self. Back to visit. Not to do anything, not to try to repair or fix. Not to try to have sympathy. Sympathy is very different than compassion. But the compassion was to be able to go back into that time frame that was 20, 30 years ago, back to an incident that happens. And by the way, it's always interesting. I'll say go back to when you were 18 to 24 years old. And most of the time people will say, I went back to an incident I didn't think I would have ever picked, but I just found myself there. Interesting. I wonder why that is. Because you weren't thinking about it, and because it was actually probably more important or influential than the one you've been thinking about and processing. So you go back there to visit. What are you doing in the visit? What are you doing? Well, you're just having compassion. Compassion is acceptance. It's not saying, oh, you poor thing, look what happened to you. That's mental psychology. And that's really very, very, at a point it actually can be harmful. Now, Calder's holding back my words, but I'll say it. I don't like it. At a point it is very, very harmful. And I know there's people who argue it and say, no, it really helps. People come to the office and they sit here and we talk about their problems and they go back into their childhood. Really? And that's helpful? Because it's a lot of reprocessing. It's kind of like warming up the old beans again. And it's very, very mental. There's no compassion in it. It's emotional and mental. But there's no true compassion. Compassionate psychology would be going to visit yourself when you're 8 years old from the I am that you are right now. You go back to visit your 8-year-old self. You don't have to say any words to that 8-year-old. You're just there. You don't have to try to repair anything. You don't have to give false hope and promises. Nothing. Just being present. Just being there. Imagine, well, hell. Let's just do it. Good. Let's take a deep breath. Take a good deep breath. And no music on this one, John. Just take a good deep breath. Here you are. Present. Coming into your crystalline being. Present here at this shout, whether you're here in Coal Creek Canyon or listening now or even later. You're in your body. You're sensing, feeling things. It's amazing, actually, how much distraction I have to do. A lot of yammering up here just so you can allow yourself. Here you are as a conscious, aware being. You suddenly allow yourself to expand. Expanding meaning we're not going out of the body. This is not astral projection. No more going out of the body. Everything comes in and through the body now. But we expand. The body can expand. It's just energy. Driven by consciousness. So the body, the being, the I am expand back to when you were about 8 years old. You're there with yourself, the 8-year-old, not doing a thing other than observing and being aware. You may be aware of an incident. You may be aware of your 8-year-old's emotion or trauma. That's all right. Oh, you're going to feel it. Absolutely. And that's all right to feel it. But you're not there to interfere or counsel or do therapy or Reiki, or crystal tuning, anything. You're just there. You are there as a radiant being with yourself. You can observe and feel what's going on, but not trying to change a thing. This, my friends, is compassion. Compassion that you would be there for yourself. Compassion that you would allow whatever is going on to go on. Compassion that you don't have judgments about anything being right or wrong. You're just there. Compassion, just accepting yourself. Now, some funny things happen right now. There's an 8-year-old, your 8-year-old, who's going through something in your life at 8 years old, suddenly feels a presence, suddenly feels something called love or compassion, suddenly has hope, doesn't feel so alone or lost. That 8-year-old doesn't know how to define it necessarily. Might call it an angel or a saint or one of its spirit friends that it used to have when it was 2 years old. But it just feels something. And in feeling something, at that point of trauma, it allows whatever stuck energies were there to be free. Whatever perception that 8-year-old continued to have of that event, continued to have when the 8-year-old became 20 and 30 and 40, that 8-year-old held on to the perception of that event until now. Your compassion, the compassion to go back without judgment, touched this 8-year-old. It did not necessarily change the linear outcome of events, but it changed the perception, the love, the compassion, and the lesson. That, my friends, is compassionate psychology. Next step. Here you are, as a human, sitting in these chairs here in Coal Creek or watching. Here you are, whatever age you're at. You take a deep breath with clarity and simplicity. You allow yourself to feel. There's something here. It's not me. It's not them or they. It's you. And the compassionate soul. Some would say that it comes from the future. It doesn't really matter. But it's here without judgment. It's here reminding itself, you, that it's not alone. It's here with a big smile saying, isn't it amazing? It all worked out. Even in spite of you, it all worked out. In spite of the doubt, the limits, the fears. Now your human mind says, yeah, but where are you coming from? How far in the future? My compassionate soul says, does it really matter? I'm here. I am that I am. What's it going to take? What's it going to take for freedom? Clarity and compassion. Freedom isn't anything you can fight your way into or out of. Freedom isn't anything that you earn from your good deeds. It's nothing you think your way into. The more thinking, the less freedom. Freedom is the compassion. It's you going back and visiting yourself when you were 8. It's your soul visiting you right now. It's all the same. It's all the same. Let's take a deep breath with that.